Once again, and thank you for staying with us right here on Morning at NTV. My name is Romeo Busiku. We'd like to talk about international law. February 22nd, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. Yes, he broke the UN Charter when he did that. International law was broken. So we want to talk about that. Women, children, and the men were killed in that invasion of Ukraine. So we are here to talk about the correlation between that issue and the African countries, the politics of these spheres of influence. There is the East and there is the West. African countries now running to Russia and China. Others are running to the US. So we'd like to talk about the effects of that international law on our democracy right here in Uganda. We do have a 15% levy on our coffee exports. Yet we do have a commensurate level of trading between the US and Uganda. Uganda is trading $130 million US. They are trading 120 million. Actually, they are trading 130 million US dollars with us, and we are trading 120 million US dollars with them. So why levy a 15% on our coffee? That is a recipe for disaster. We are also noting the African Growth Opportunity Act, AGOA. It was suspended. That was a huge market. It was suspended by the US. So many other issues that are taking center stage are affecting us here in Uganda, and I do have an expert here in studio with me. That is the Kyadondo East legislator, Muwada Nkunyingi. He's joining me right here on the set, and so many others will be joining him later on as we try to understand this issue and how it is affecting Uganda. International law. A very good morning, Muwada Nkunyingi.
Good morning to the viewers and the country.
Break it down for the viewer. What is international law?
Well, we live in a global village that is called, where we have various countries in various continents and regions, but on the basis of our history as humanity, international relations evolved from international affairs and at some stage disputes, where we saw countries now coming together to sign and come up with acceptable conventions and treaties that would govern relations between states and nations. And it became a necessity that countries from time and again went again ratifying or accepting to be part of agreeable international obligations in various spheres, be it in governance, human rights, including aspects like now nuclear, among others. And when countries ratify under international arrangements, when you agree to international acceptable standards, you equally domesticate it at home. In terms of the coexistence of countries in various spheres, be it trade, security, human rights, among others. In a simple picture, because countries are sovereign with their independent jurisdictions and borders, laws, among others, there now exist international obligations under international law. Which we can't exhaust. But the international law is broader, which now governs the relation between countries and states. Away from that, we now also have regional blocks. You will have now the EU with some unique values. You have Africa, like now Africa is divided. We have the African Union, but even within Africa, we have now the East African Community, SADC, among others. Same applies to America. In America, we have North America, we have South America. And Asia, you know, the Organization of Islamic Conference, uniting Muslim and Arabic and Arab countries.
So fast forward, which law did Russia break when they invaded Ukraine?
You may not need to...
Giving them an example of how international could be
You may
broken.
not point at a singular law, but it's an obligation on all member states. First of all, to maintain peace and security and maintain the sovereignty of nations. And sovereignty of nations means you don't attack a neighbor and you don't encroach on a neighbor. without justification. And that's why we have the UN Council, Security Council. Wherever countries have to intervene under international law, there must be an agreement, an understanding under the UN arrangement. We have the UN Security Council. So you must showcase justification for any intervention. We want to call it intervention because it's not allowed to attack another country. If it is so required intervention, there must be it must be sanctioned by UN Security Council. And at domestic level, a country can invite another. As we speak now, Uganda is paying compensation to DRC for intervening within DRC without its invitation and without it being sanctioned by DRC. So when you enter a sovereign state, you wage war on a sovereign state, it is subject to international law and arbitration. And at one stage you will find that even after the war, you will find Ukraine going and exploring international courts, especially to secure justice and possible compensation. We have seen it happen where countries are invaded, and I've given you the immediate example when Uganda intervened in DRC by whatever reason. DRC took us to international courts, and we are still paying compensation.
Indeed. There is Muwada Nkunyingi, a legislator from Kyadondo East under the NUP flag. We also do have Fred Bamwine, commissioner, a commissioner in the President's office, and later on we shall be joined by Simon Mulongo, a policy analyst. A very good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, and good morning viewers of NTV. I'm happy to be here with Honorable Muwada.
Yeah. You are a student of international law. Kindly break it down for us.
Before I went into that class of international law, I used to have a very different picture. But when you go into the integrity of the concept of international law,
your perspective changed.
You get to ask yourself, are we part of the globe?
So we've been isolated.
Not necessarily isolated, but I don't know what happened to after independence. Most elite in developing countries took a back seat and they thought they have arrived. In actual fact, independence in all these colonized countries was supposed to be a stepping stone for actual liberation. But unfortunately, the elites of that time and now, we seem to have resigned to fate. And that is not supposed to be human nature. Human nature is supposed to be innovative from time to time. So international...
Who bears the mistake? Is it the central government for failing to institute diplomacy during those years to ensure that our presence is felt? Did we do our part in diplomacy?
The problem with most of us is failure to know that colonizers did not come here for charity.
They never did.
And they did not...
To plunder and then go.
And they did not go willingly.
The movement was right.
And in fact, they didn't go. That's the brutal truth. So in international law, all states are supposed to be sovereign. That's what is in international law. That's what the UN is championing. But when you go to understand who is the UN, who is the Security Council, who is the G7, then you start seeing a difference. For instance, the UN, the major funder is the United States of America. And you know the English say, he who pays for the piper calls for the tune. So you find that as long as UN has not, America has not supported anything in the UN, it ceases to be a UN position. Look at the Palestine-Israel.
Indeed.
I think since the 1970s, the recommendation of the UN is a two-state position.
Indeed.
But the United States said no. And it has not worked since the 1970s to date.
Let's bring the conversation back here to Uganda. So, what is the problem with the United States with Uganda? What are the challenges leading to what we are seeing now? Trade, 15% trade, a tariff that has been imposed. We are not in AGOA. We would like to know what are the challenges. What problems do we have with them?
You may think it is a challenge between Uganda and the United States. No, it's the global economic politics. You cannot be a champion, a policeman of the world, the American hegemonic interest. And then you hear that major contracts in Uganda are going to China. That most oil wells are going to other countries. Then you have lost your position. Then you are informed that country called Uganda is damn rich in mineral resources. And then the question is going, what is our position as America? So it is the international policy of the global lobbyists to turn your neck. They squeeze you here, they squeeze here until you come to your knees.
So how do we bridge these gaps in Uganda's foreign policies, and of what impact are these challenges to our elections? We would like to know the impact on our elections and if Ugandans even care about these things.
Remember, even in the world, there used to be two systems, the capitalists and socialists.
Yes.
That is the time of the Cold War. So in the international relations, it is a cutthroat situation. You go changing alliances. In fact, the biggest principle in international law is that there are no permanent friends.
So now we are looking to Russia. We are in the East, in China.
But they are permanent state interests. So the question is very simple. When America is behaving as such, politically, economically,
how does it affect our election?
Now, how do you position yourself as Uganda to survive on the globe?
Indeed.
So you must look for alliances. And you remember when there was this Iraq-Iran, I think, when they were going to kill Saddam. And they said there is no weapons of mass destruction. America said it is a coalition of the willing against the UN. Said those who are supporting us, come and we go. And the UN remained cold defeated. So even in these situations, it takes the leadership of the country to start positioning yourself in this global exploitation, in this situation of global survival. How do I survive as a country, and how are our interests protected? For instance, the biggest threat now, if the leadership of Uganda is saying we are not going to export any raw materials anymore, we must process. You remember our problem with oil. It was supposed to be extracted in 2012. To date, we haven't, because those exploiters think we should give them crude oil, and the leadership is saying no. Also, let us export refined oil so that we get more value and more products.
Right.
And they are not going to allow you to behave so. And do you know what they do? They use us. They pass through Bamwine, they pass through Muwada, paralyze your own country, of course at a high cost.
Indeed.
So that's why it is important for us Pan-Africans are saying, okay, in this global situation which is not willing to let go, and it is a question of survival because they don't have resources. Then we are saying, why can't, for instance, Africans unite in terms of regional blocks, in terms of a continent? For instance, if we are all united in the regions East African Common Market, ECU, SADC, ECOWAS, Maghreb, if we all united and then took one decision as a continent, these people will come to their knees. But unfortunately, people who were colonized, at every stage we are not yet confident. You say, maybe I'm not a person enough. Maybe, but it takes, because I ask myself, my children are named after Shaka, after Mwanga, after Kabarega. Those people were not even nursery dropouts, but in their understanding, they tried to resist imperialism for a good time.
That is Fred Bamwine. We would like to bring the conversation.
So what has happened to us
back home, especially elections after the colonial period? We've seen a lot of disgruntlement, the country going into chaos. Obote won. After those elections, you saw what happened, 1962. Attacking the kingdom. Then his henchman, Idi Amin, also topples him. So indeed, we'd like to talk about the elections and the impact on our Ugandans shortly after this break. Muwada Nkunyingi, just prepare those pointers as we go for this break. You're still watching Morning at NTV. We'll be right back. Particular day. All right, let's get back to our conversation on breaking international law. Are we following international law when we handle our day-to-day activities in Uganda here, especially the elections? There's a lot of money in our elections. And they over there were saying, yes, there is money in the election, but he's going to be focusing on the value he's going to be offering these delegates and the country at the end of the day, not the money itself that his other aspirants are actually throwing around. Mr. Bamwine, you were telling me that you're also discontented by the issue of money that you see being thrown around within our political system. We don't see this in the US. We don't see it in other democracies. People simply come to the podium, they state what they want to do for the constituents, and they are voted. In Uganda, it is the ability to pay somebody to get for you that vote. Why are we using that modus operandi? When did we get to that level?
I don't know. I don't know how old you are. But me, I'm going to base myself from 1986.
I was born 91. 5 years later.
Expanded NRC, 89, 88, 89. People could go to a county, as we are here 3. You talk about yourselves, you go away, people discuss about you, you come back and they line behind you. Period. A member of parliament is elected. No money, nothing. We came to CA, some money started coming in, but it was not, that money was for moving around because it was a popular vote. I think the problem came in 1995. Most members, the framers of the Constitution, most of them, had come from exile because of the previous governments. So they had to make this good document that should not allow another dictator like Amin to come back to Uganda. Because the question of the day was, will I be alive up tomorrow? That was the biggest issue.
Indeed.
So they made sure that they are making governments to have checks and balances. But they said since there is executive, there must be a strong parliament to check executive. And this parliament, for them, they expected that for somebody to be a member of parliament, you should have attained this status of not greed for the world. They didn't expect that somebody can come from school and go to elections and become a member of parliament. Or somebody can come from the business sector and go to parliament. So they said we shall have honorary members of parliament. 2, they'll be the only organ in the country allowed to make laws of any nature for peace, order, development, and good governance of the country. And 3, it will be the only organ that is allowed to determine its emoluments. Now, for them, they expected these are honorary members of parliament. They will not think about themselves first. They'll first think about Uganda whenever they're going to deliberate on something. But the situation now came to, since they have these powers, people said, they're determining their own emoluments. Why don't we join in? Then they first ring, those who were there, the sixth parliament, they
were joining for money, not to serve.
Yes, they first ring fixed themselves. You cannot come from civil service to go and contest, and then if you don't lose and go back, say, if you want to do that, you first resign. Hey, so people started calculating. If I sell my 2 houses and I get 2 billion shillings, put it in an election, how much will I get out of 5 years?
And of course, we've continued to see this behavior precipitate within the August House. They enter, get their money back through the loans they paid during the campaigns, and that's it.
So this is 8 billion. So as a business. So people started coming from all over
to just come and mint money within the August House.
That's why in elections in the country now, even in internal parties, it is day and die.
We've seen that.
Because people have sold their resources.
And they must win.
And they have no element of losing. It's a one way where I must win.
That is Fred Bamwine.
Or they lose.
Let's also talk about
this
the
kind
Universal
of money is very bad.
Declaration on Human Rights.
And it's unfortunate for the country.
The Universal Declaration on Human Rights, 1948, that's when it was penned. It states clearly that the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of the government. And also it states this shall be expressed in periodic and genuine elections, which shall be universal and equal suffrage and shall be held by the secret vote or by the equivalent of free voting procedures. Mr. Nkunyingi, at least from 1962, have we adhered to the Universal Declaration on Human Rights?
Well, I want to
break it down for us.
I want to first comment on what Bamwine termed as international law.
And then we get into the issue of elections.
Vis-a-vis Uganda. And I want to be clear that whereas we agree that under international law, countries must be sovereign, and we have regional blocs. Bamwine alluded to Uganda-US relations and used his own academic research.
Yes.
I want to paint in facts. For example, we lost AGOA because we did not comply with the AGOA Act. When you read the AGOA Act as it is, it was an exemption for countries, largely African countries, which had registerable commitment, especially to show that that along the way and over time they will improve their record of democratic values, democratic governance, human rights protection, the rule of law, among others. And Uganda was legitimately faulted, and not only faulted but warned or cautioned
for her internal processes.
And when we failed to comply, it wasn't a question of US being a superpower. It was that instance of the US aligning itself to its foreign policy values, and the AGOA Act was very clear and elaborate. So when anyone alludes to that loss as an exercise of superiority, not an exercise of compliance, you are far from facts, because the AGOA Act existed. The values within the AGOA Act are very clear, and Uganda was cautioned.
Nkunyingi, as a diplomat, shouldn't we be separating the issue of diplomacy and trade, where they say, if you do not work on your internal political processes, we are going to remove you from this business deal? Don't you think that is high-handed in the form of neo-colonialism?
I think in international relations, by the time you choose to relate with a country, every country has its own foreign policy and foreign policy values. Now, the countries of the world, do not disassociate their bigger and broader foreign policy from the economics of it.
Indeed.
And even in Uganda, as we send our diplomats, we equally facilitate them to handle economic and commercial diplomacy. So it must be aligned to the foreign policy values. The only unfortunate bit of it is that Uganda has no codified foreign policy for everyone to read.
But for the viewer who is watching, are you fine with the conditions they set for us? That for us to do business with you,
by the way,
we need to check on your political processes?
We transacted, you know, don't.
Is it right?
Support
we transacted with the US under the AGOA Act and AGOA arrangement, well aware of the terms and conditions.
Indeed.
You cannot just stand around after benefiting for years when they are reprimanding you to comply with the conditions of the Act.
Indeed.
And you cite and narrate persecution. No, that's out of it. Uganda is fond of covering itself, its fault, under such cover. Look at the recent restriction, the visa ban. Personally, as a shadow minister, I've raised the concerns in Parliament over Uganda passport index. A Ugandan carry a wheelbarrow of documents to apply for a passport. Now, it also has reciprocity concerns.
Indeed.
If Uganda is offering a 3-month visa for a US citizen, it was only a blessing that US was offering us 2 years visa. So, and two, even prior to the ban, the recent restrictions, not a total ban, the US gave countries 60 days to show their commitment. How are they going to improve their passport ranking and stand? Now, those are matters of concern. When it comes to international trade, there are some barriers which are self-made. For example, I've occasionally raised the concern over our failure to exploit the European market.